The story starts in a shower, a place the average gamer is unfamiliar with. Kinji Ninomiya is our MC in this story. Once he steps out with a towel on his head, the main man looks down at the people struggling as they make their way in the rain. The man with the devilish smile then reminiscences about the time he grinded like hell to become a rich NEET, i.e. a person who is unemployed and not receiving an education or vocational training, but a rich one. Unlike the rest of the people cramped like sardines in a bus, his words not mine, he didn't want to hustle every day just for the sake of it, so instead the man in the Speedos managed to pull it off by investing in stock markets and other real estate endeavors. Kinji never researched that crap his whole life till he became wealthy without ever having to work an actual job. Sadly though, as the half-naked man was basking in the glory of his work, a portal suddenly transports him to another world. And just like that, the good times have turned to hard times. The new world is called Amuria, and unlike the other trash isekai fantasy worlds, the age of heroes in this one is over. Modern corporations now mine the dungeons the heroes once explored for a precious material called demonite. Thus, here we are, Kinji is forced to become a miner and listen to his boss's boss Belza, making a dull speech about how working to death is good. You know the kind of pep talk the HR does before they let you go down to the warehouse and slave away for a portion of what they get paid, along with other colleagues who are losing their minds by the minute. Naturally, an ex-pro NEET like Kinji doesn't stand with such ideologies. Yet because of falling into an enormous debt, he has no other option but to mine the dungeons and hear his supervisor whine about his performance. Also, to make things worse, the company requires workers to work 16-hour shifts with no breaks in between, does not allow them to shower more than once a month, forcing everyone to sleep together. While damning his situation, Kinji overhears a skeleton man scolding a big scaly fella for not being too bright. Report, remind, and review. The 3 R's. The skeleton tells the lizard to memorize while kicking him. Kinji loses interest in the convo, after remembering he is broke as fuck and has only 1 coin to buy a piece of bread, which he drops by mistake and starts chasing like Chris Hansen trying to catch up with a predator. But alas, he falls short. That said, Kinji comes across something big during this event. Later at night, the main man invites Wanibe, the wimpy crocodile demi-human, to a fancy place, which makes Wanibe sus of the situation since the two get paid the same and can't afford the drinks. But Kinji tells him to relax since he took a loan, and reveals his debt is 20 million. You see, things went south when the hustler sold his 10% iPad to some sketchy fellas who weren't happy for their Apple dying on them, proving once again in a world of wizards and magic, nothing can fix an Apple product except Louis Rossmann. May God bless the right to repair. After hearing this, Wanipus gets scared as he doesn't want anything with the MC, but the main man, being a master manipulator, brings out the 3 R's, promising him a better future. Hence, the next day the lads volunteer to prospect deeper in the dungeon where monsters are more dangerous, but demonite is plentiful. Taken aback by this sudden spurt of courage and work ethic, the boss reminds Kinji that he won't be compensated if he gets injured down there, and then sends him away with a big smile. However, unbeknown to the Lilgup and the big lizard, Kinji had discovered a secret entrance to the 3rd level. The lads use holy water to keep the monsters at bay while they mine the crystals. Wanibe thanks Kinji for choosing him, to which the main man responds with, "You don't strike me as a guy with friends. I only chose you out of convenience. Most of our co-workers are cowards who stay together like sheep. The only thing they do is protest and look down on the people above them. They don't change anything or work towards improving. I refuse to employ any one of them because winners like me refuse to work for the sake of working." To put it short, he called him a loser who wouldn't snitch because he had no friends. After finishing the motivational talk and filling their bags with crystals, the lads get attacked by a hungry dragon, since the holy water they used to keep the dangers at bay was expired. Yes, you heard that right. Holy water has an expiration, just like the brief friendship with the lizard man whom Kinji uses as bait to make a run for it. While coming to terms with his untimely end, Kinji appears again and makes a deal with the dragon, promising that if it guards them while they dig, he will provide tastier food. Amused by this human, the dragon transforms into a lowly named Rim. That's anime for you. From that day on, the party began making huge profits. However, Kinji despairs as his money goes toward feeding Rim, and his debt increases, making a return to the mines inevitable. Consequently, this time Kinji discovers a magician's staff left behind by a dead hero and uses it to hypnotize other miners into mining for him. Thus, Kinji's come-up story was unfolding in front of our eyes as he literally and figuratively mind-manipulated his co-workers to work themselves to the brink of death, which showed on their faces the next day. Sadly though, like all the times before, the good times ended when the staff broke, and the miners awakened while Kinji was doing his evil capitalist monologue, a one only fit for a demon lord. As a result, he got severely punished. With our MC back at the bottom, Rim bites his bottom. After such a stunt, Kinji's co-workers were understandably mad the next day. Yet, even though he was clearly in the wrong, Kinji still argued within the confines of his mind that he had done the correct thing after all his and the division's numbers rose very considerably. But I guess at the end of the day, nothing of this actually mattered, for you see Kinji and Wanabe got transferred into another division, the Dangerous Exploration Team. We then get a brief exposition about the company lore being the biggest in the land, with a capital of 1 billion gold and a workforce of 30,000 employees. The corporation has many specialized branches from mining, selling, and distribution to research. They do it all. One core branch in the company is the Exploration branch, which hires elite teams to go down the dungeon and clear it for the miners to do their jobs. As such, they get paid handsomely. Kinji's team, however, is under them. Their duty is to assist the elites by cleaning the dungeon, fixing the lights, and refilling some supplies. They are the lowest of the low. Yet, Kinji's drive burns brighter than the darkest cave, unlike the pessimistic Wanabe, who gets caught in a fan service trap. So to protect our eyes, Lord Kinji shoves a bag of potions in the chest. Indecently, Wanabe still gets injured, so the higher-ups force Kinji to do Wanabe's share of the work too, while getting his pay reduced till the potions he threw in the chest are covered. This left him with no money to feed Rim, therefore Kinji brought trash for her to feast on, yet it didn't stop her from taking the hidden piece of meat Kinji tried to get past her. The elves keep going our boy's way, as he gets tasked to go alone and refill some potions. While doing so, Kinji runs into a self-entitled elite explorer. How much entitled are we talking about? Well, the man basically told Kinji to go off himself so he could run away, as he was fleeing from a swarm of monster ants. Thinking fast, Kinji jumped into the river and went to the shop to inform the higher-ups about the situation. However, they don't care. The only thing they care about is him finishing his work. If anything, this rewatch of The Dungeon of Black Company made me realize how it's a good take on capitalism and the toxic life of a corporate slave. Will I do something about it? Absolutely not. I'm just another ant in the hive mind. Speaking about ants, a higher power smiles at Kinji and drops a transformation potion his way, which he uses to turn himself along with the elite warrior and the equipment manager into ants. With the dangers of becoming ant food avoided, they are still stuck with the fact they are not leaving the cave since their boss has sealed the mine. While trying to converse with his group on what to do next, Kinji overhears a new voice and finally realizes while transformed, he can understand the ant's language. And just like that, his devilish mind starts working overtime upon seeing a worker ant collapsing from exhaustion. Like a veteran insurance merchant, the man started yapping non-stop, as fast as he could, as dramatically as he could, introducing the concept of workers' rights to the worker ants. Although it appeared to be tough at first, through the sheer force of pure Japanese, Kinji managed to give the ant an existential crisis about life and his purpose and rights beyond working. One by one, the little guys followed Kinji, the ant whisperer, joining his side to finally form a union demanding the Ant Queen treat them better. During this little event, it is revealed that the Ant Queen decided to expand her colony into the mine after Rim disappeared and stopped eating her workers. Kinji, along with his party, who are now back in their human form, faces the Ant Queen trying to overtake her position as the leader, claiming that she is no longer qualified to lead her hive, to which she simply laughs off, stating that a queen doesn't require qualification, all that she needs is brute strength, and she has plenty of that. Luckily for Kinji, his freeloader comes crashing from above after getting hungry. Her first impulse was to chase the ants, trying to eat them. To protect his new comrades, Kinji gave his dinner away yet again. Seeing this, the Ant Queen with the killer instinct turned into a sweet little princess as she thanked Kinji, her rugged hero, for saving her from Rim, the fearsome monster guarding the mines. The following day, Wanabe returns to the shift and apologizes to his boy for leaving him with all the work. Kinji tells him there is no need to apologize and starts going on a ramble about how he realized that the company is bad and doesn't care for the little guys who keep the gears turning, concluding the ramble with his new goal of taking over the Raizaha Mining Corporation and form his own Dungeon Black company, ending the scene on a nice shot with the monster chicks behind him. The next day, we meet Shia, a modern hero employed by Raizaha Corporation, who located and acquired a Philosopher's Stone in a dungeon that 185 heroes failed to acquire. Therefore, being the creme de la creme, this new waifu is tasked to join Exploration Group 3 and whip the rookies into shape. The busty hero gladly takes on the task, claiming she will work them to their limits, not knowing what's waiting for her. Meanwhile, on an island containing a corporate training center, the boys are forced to endure a pigman getting all close and personal with, what I assume, is some serious stinky breath because he's obviously a pig. The camp was a major failure considering that Kinji's rise from the bottom plan was put into motion as he explained, while fantasizing about joining the upper board of the company, manipulating the market, crashing it, and retiring with a large sum of money. However, all this wishful thinking is put on hold as he now has to survive the brutal physical exercises of the camp, like facing monster dogs, not being buried under the rubble because the supervisor felt bitchy, and of course, climbing mountains without food while the pigman feasts on a chicken leg that he throws after taking one bite, just to assert dominance and double down on being a douchebag. After some time, Kinji got so tired that he was about to eat a plant that messes with the mind. Luckily, Wanibe was there to stop him from tripping. Yet, only pain and suffering are what awaited him on top of the mountain, so I would say hallucinating on some natural edible might have been the best move there. As we can see, the program is starting to affect some of the members' psyche and making them feel gratitude to work for the company. Some would say it's turning them into broader-line masochists, looking at how they are enjoying the unnecessary punishment they are being put through. If this shit sounds too good to be true, it's because it is, as the group is becoming more and more obedient due to magical brainwashing methods used to increase loyalty to Raizaha, not the actual hellish training regime. As the training resumes and the magical washing continues, Kinji becomes a role model for his co-workers. And let me say, I didn't expect propaganda and brainwashing could be this funny. Incidentally, on the way home, a guy pumps into our boy, bringing him back to his senses. Likewise, he snaps Wanibe out of being brainwashed and reveals that he knew about the brainwashing the whole time and used the mind-altering plants from earlier to resist and plan revenge. In other words, they fought crazy with crazy. Furthermore, Kinji also reveals he has drugged the brainwashing sorcerers with the confusion plants, leading them to set off bombs that the instructor was using against the gang to evidently destroy the island, the training center, and everything in between. Following the camp, the company believed that they were successful in brainwashing the lads, so they sent Kinji and Wanibe to Group 3 under Shia as their supervisor. And let me tell you, this bitch got some major behind her, one elbow to the big lug, and he was sent across the room knocked out. To put that feat into perspective, Wanibe is the same person who was getting his balls kicked in as if it was nothing during the first time we saw him. After hospitalizing Wanibe, Shia decides to give Kinji a solo tour. First, she explains how things are in this line of work by revisiting their duties, how the salaries work, as well as the working hours. She then shows our boy the company's inventory where he can buy some drip to venture even deeper into the dungeons, a practice Shia praises very highly, since from her perspective the fact Raizaha Corporation lets them shop in their fancy shops is a privilege. Kinji, however, tries to point out Raizaha's exploitation, saying, "Don't you see how this system is messed up? We mine the crystal for them to make weapons, which we are supposed to buy from them. If we don't meet the quota, which they set, then we have to buy better, more expensive equipment to make the job easier, not to mention the life risk that comes with a job like this." In short, they are making workers buy company items from their own personal pay to work. Sadly, Shia, being far gone in her company shilling ways, shuts that notion down immediately and calls it blasphemous, while whitewashing the company's monetization practices. Shia forces our boy to accompany her into the dungeon to fight monsters. She puts him against a big boy who shows Kinji no regard and goes for the booba, so she fights him while our boy chills with an ant on top of a building. Shia tries to kill Ant A, Kinji's favorite ant. So, he summons Rim, who eats way too much. The lowly transforms from her FBI trap form to a legal waifu form and easily knocks waifu number 2 out. With Shia captured, Kinji tells his boy to bring a camera and forces her to pose for photographs incriminating her as being friends with Rim and the Ant Queen. Using the pics, Kinji blackmails Shia into secretly working for his Dungeon Black company. While heading home contemplating Rim's food expanses, Kinji gets surrounded by a group of men who force him to a dark alley. The sharks are here to collect what they are owed. To make it clear that they are not playing around, Boss Lady steps on our boy's manhood, and that's with the tip of her heel, so you know that mother effer double hurts. She then threatens Kinji with far worse treatment if he fails to repay 5 million gold within a month. On the other end, Shia wakes up from a dream of her father. Long story short, she wasn't happy about having that dream, so when the time came to dive deeper into the dungeon, she tried to forget all about the family drama and motivate her fellow corporate slaves. Yet Kinji is not having any of her usual shilling. And to be honest, how could he be anything other than depressed with such a massive debt/threat looming over his head? Not liking the vibe, Shia carried his sorry ass to work. After killing some monsters, Miss Booba tells Kinji that monster parts can be valuable, yet with some quick math it appears that at the rate they are killing monsters, Kinji will not have enough money by the end of the given term. That said, in a do-or-die situation, our boy's brain was working overtime as he noticed Wanibe's tail regenerated a day after the latter offered it to Rim when she was hungry. This lit a light pulp above Kei's head. Meanwhile, Belza, Rizaha's director, reveals that a death march is approaching. A death march is when all demons and monsters regenerate, which is massively profitable and massively risky if things get out of hand, a thing the old heads fear might happen. Yet the woman at the top ensures them that she will have everything under control by then. Back in the dungeon, we learn that Kinji has embarrassed the Stardew Valley life and opened a farm. Its purpose is to harvest monster parts without killing them. This way they can double the harvesting time and amount of valuable parts, giving Kinji a realistic chance to pay the 5 million back. And of course, this ingenious plan couldn't have been put into motion if it wasn't for Rim's Browns. However, as you know, after every high there is a low. Belza reveals Death March includes the resurrection of a Magin, but this requires the sacrifice of a hero like Shia, who, by the way, was enjoying the situation fighting her way up to safety, unlike Kinji, who was shouting the attack sound effects directly to her ear. After a minute, Kinji asks the shoddy if she has an escape item on her, to which she confirms and pulls a teleportation crystal. Kinji is joyed with this discovery, unlike Shia who thinks it would be anticlimactic to do so. And it was, until the Magin attacked her. Waifu number 2 tries to save Kinji by teleporting him back to the surface, but the man refuses and throws the magic crystal at the Magin, teleporting it to the surface where it destroys the mining facility. As the Magin tunnels back into the dungeon, trying to get back to its level and catch the hero, Kinji has the ants set traps while he sits on his throne like a boss. Sadly though, the plan fails, and so Plan B begins. Since Rim is currently not in the dungeon and Shia can't fight at 100%, the mad lad decides to tie the hero and make a run towards the next location with the beast hot on their trail, leading it to a pit filled with highly flammable slime substance, making the Magin confused and prompting it to start attacking randomly. Seeing this, Shia insists on fighting it head-on, sacrificing herself to protect everyone, so Kinji pulls a calm your tits down move, literally and figuratively. The original gangster scolds Shia for putting herself at risk trying to escape the reputation of her father, the king of failed adventures. Realizing he is right and she doesn't have to outdo her father, she decides to live for herself. Following this personal transformation, Plan C starts. Kinji, having stolen some company equipment, uses it to confuse the Magin, further allowing the fully rested hero to end the boss battle with a powerful attack. Or so we thought. The Magin revives and tries to eat Kinji, but Rim senses this and swoops in at the nick of time to save her landlord and bite the Magin's head off via her hair. Yeah, don't question it. It looked cool, and that's the only thing that matters. Anyways, Rim hints at something about Majin's resurrection being unnatural, but Kinji doesn't understand what she's talking about, so he gives it no regard. As the dynamic duo prepares to leave, a circle appears beneath them. While falling into it, the MC recognizes it as the same teleportation circle that summoned him from Japan. Kinji awakens in his penthouse, laughing and brushing the previous events as nothing but a dream. That said, a part of him still misses the friends he made along the way. Speaking about friends, when our boy turns on the TV, he finds out that Rim is rampaging through the city, attacking the food stores and making her way to his building. People call Kinji, asking him to come out as word has spread that the monster is looking for him, aka the same monster currently standing behind him, ready to eat his sweet candy ass. Suddenly, Kinji awakens again and finds Rim chewing on his shoes, to his relief. Meanwhile, Ranga, a cute priestess, addresses our boy as Lord Messiah and asks him to save their world. Kinji starts questioning the cutie about where he is and what happened to his friends. Confused, the kid pulls out a manual and tries again to communicate better, which evidently didn't help, but added more confusion to the situation. Fed up, Kinji tells Rim to break the wall, only to find himself in an unfamiliar futuristic setting. Soon after, an old man with a creepy smile enters the room. He introduces himself as Zazel, the leader of the underground human village, which is part of a city created thousands of years ago by the advanced Colonian civilization. Not caring about formalities, Kinji cuts through the chase and asks what they want from him. Zazel reveals that 300 years ago, an evil corporation took over the world. Hearing the shit the old man spews, Kinji starts connecting the points in his mind and realizes he is actually in Amuria 300 years in the future, and the evil corporation is Raizaha. Using a time machine they found, the future losers decided to summon a hero, or in this case, Kinji from the past, to slay the demon lord residing above. Everyone in town, grouped in anticipation for the arrival of their Lord Messiah, cheered for Kinji. However, the hero is still not interested in saving what he calls worthless, hot garbage, who won't even help themselves. Hence, the old geezer pulls a gun on our boy and threatens Kinji into facing the demon lord. Yet still, Kinji refuses to do so until the old man speaks of a prophecy that after saving the world, a passage will open leading to Japan, which changes the main man's mind. And so, the dynamic duo gets some new drip and prepares to head out along with the cute priestess, who, by the way, turns out to be a he. Yes, you heard that right. What you see here is a dude through and through. The townsfolk made him dress like a girl and treated him as such, since in the Book of Prophecies it was said, "A girl with magic shall assist the Lord Messiah when he arrives," but since this boy was the only one able to use magic, they had to improvise, which I'm all for, don't get me wrong. When life gives lemons, you appreciate a well-drawn cute femboy. Upon arriving at a nearby castle, the trap goes ahead and destroys the gate while Kinji is deep in thought about what his next move should be. A demon dog exits to check who in his right mind would attack the demon lord's general official post. Kinji learns the castle belongs to the demon lord Belza's deputy, General Ant, whom Kinji recognizes as his friend Aunt A. Aunt A has evolved into a powerful monster and is overjoyed to see Kinji. While having a fancy dinner with his old pal, Aunt A started filling Kinji in on what happened to him and his fellow ants during this time skip. Then they discussed the human exploiting situation. A Rouge side character entered the room, cut the story short, and destroyed the food table, which obviously didn't sit well with Tiny Greater Dragon. Thankfully, though, for the irrelevant character, Kinji managed to settle Rim down with a piece of chicken. This sudden intrusion served as a great segue for General Ant to explain what's up with the humans under him. Turns out, he has been treating the two-legged losers fairly. For example, he only asks that they work 40 hours a week while providing holidays and health insurance. Hearing how much better these people's work life is, Kinji didn't hesitate to give him the boot to the face. General Ant explains that the problem here is that the humans of the future are unreasonably lazy and believe 40 hours is too much work. Belza has not run the corporation in years, and General Ant doesn't know what to do. Deciding to help Kinji take over as General Nunomiya, the group devises a plan to punish lazy workers and reward hard workers, making the company profitable again. Also, one of his plans was to take over the underground city, replacing Zazel as the leader and forcing the citizens to return to work, which in hindsight is deserved. Trying to threaten a man to fight their fight and protect their quote-unquote unemployed lifestyle instead of doing it themselves is just downright disgusting. So, to cleanse us from this filth, to the bath we go. Ranga is enjoying a hot spring all by their lonesome till Kinji arrives with Rim, who is not respecting bath etiquette. Speaking about bath etiquette, three generals snuck a cam into the bath. While peeping on them, they discuss what to do with the Kinji situation and how to stop his climb through the ranks. After some arguing and low blows to each other, Generals Ro, Power, and Zex decide to task Kinji with hard jobs, so he fails and doesn't get prompted. Power tasks the group to catch monsters that ran away from the demon army. Needless to say, it was an ambush made by Power, who was watching from miles away and doing her villain monologue. Once our boy is about to die, she will swoop in and save the day, prompting Kinji to join her ranks as her underling forever. To put it short, it was a plan as tough as her abs. However, one thing she didn't take account of is Rim defeating the worms in a second. Next in the line is Ro. He tasks Kinji with turning a wasteland into a farm. It's an impossible task, as the old geezer puts it. Like the previous general, the old man watches from afar and does a monologue basking in the future glory he has yet to receive. And just like the previous demon lord, Ro's plans fall apart in real time, as he sees Kinji cleverly using the worms from earlier, along with Ranga's magic to cultivate the land. And finally, it's Zek's turn. Unlike his fellow generals, the four-eyed virgin decides to look up some info about his opponent, a smart move indeed. That said, he doesn't find a thing. Instead, he finds some dirt on the lovely Ranga, and just like the creep he is, Zex goes to the bath where our sweet Ranga is chilling, in an attempt to use unknown before info as blackmail material. However, he becomes overcome with lust upon learning she is biologically male, knocking him off his feet. Soon after, Rim enters and headbutts the virgin in the growing, sending him to outer space. Later, while the three nutjobs stand defeated wondering what to do with the new rising star, General Kinji confronts them via the hidden camera to taunt and let them know that they were playing right into his hand, and thanks to their actions so far, his promotion to a higher position in the demon army is quite near. With no other plans left, the three decide to put Kinji in charge of a truly impossible mission. Elsewhere, Ranga wakes up in a version of Alice in Wonderland. Guided by a goofy rabbit Kinji, Ranga explores this trippy dream bit by bit. In this version of Alice in Wonderland, white rabbits are slaves to the queen, and for some reason, they associated Ranga with her and decided to attack the poor cutie patootie. Thanks to Big Head Kinji, the duo escapes to the underground where unemployed moles live in internet cafes, which Ranga embraces for some time until it hits them that living such a life would be a waste of time, but at the same time, working all their lives is no better. While being torn apart about what to do, the queen rears her big head and addresses Ranga. The queen reveals Ranga's hidden secret of being a descendant of Belza. Now through a flashback, we see Ranga's family on the run from other people who knew of their connection with the queen before they eventually died, leading Ranga to hide his true identity to survive. With everything clean on the table, the queen offers to let the cutie live with her carefree. Ranga, however, declines as they know this is just a dream, and they have to wake up for their friend who must be waiting on the other side. Goofy Kinji tries to convince Ranga in staying, but luckily the real Kinji appears to pash this lil guphead, cutting his uncanny evil laugh short. The man of the hour, too sweet to be sour, proceeds to awaken the damsel in distress with a headbutt. Back to reality, it's revealed that the generals had sent them on a mission to defeat a robot, and during the mission, the robot hypnotized Ranga, but as we just saw, the group eventually managed to destroy it and bring their friend back. With the physical challenge done, Kinji tackles the mental challenge that is Ranga's insecurities. The main man assures Ranga it is good that she has her own goals separate from Belza, and that there is nothing wrong with running and making a strategic retreat as long as it's for the sake of a future victory. Having defeated the robot, Kinji gets invited to meet the Demon Lord, who surprises Kinji by asking him to save the world. Ranga points out how much the Demon Lord looks like Rim, but the former doesn't address it. Instead, she goes on for a minute, showboating her strength and achievements. As she descended from her throne, the Demon Lord tripped on the red carpet and broke her neck, literally. Low-key, the shit caught me off guard as much as it did for the group, who proceeded to act as if nothing happened, to which the Demon Lord claims it to be a bit cold-hearted. This bit was a good way to call back and show that the Demon Lord is the resurrected Magin, who Rim bit the head off. Also, it looks like Rim, because they are practically twin sisters. However, the group still doesn't buy it, so the Magin shows their true form for a second. Seeing this, Rim turns into her adult form and pushes her sibling back to a corner. The Magin, now Demon Lord, explains the origin story behind the dungeon and them. You see, long ago an advanced society called the Colonian controlled the time and space. They created magic, dungeons, and guardians like Rim to manage the flow of magic throughout the planet. The Magin continues to explain that the circulation of magic within the dungeon was cut when the big bad idiot decided to leave her post to spend time on the surface lollygagging. Therefore, the dungeon birthed the Magin as a replacement to protect the natural system. However, since Rim killed the Magin and left, the dungeon was unprotected, allowing Raizaha to mine to the bottom and use the advanced technology of the Colonian city beneath it to take over the world. Ignoring some time travel potholes, the Magin temporarily defeated Raizaha and became the Demon Lord. But Raizaha has returned, having turned their corporate slaves into robots to defeat Magin and turn the planet into a dystopia empty of biological life. Thus, she offers Kinji a choice: return to Japan or go back in time and stop Raizaha in the past. Kinji, having grown so much and endured lots of hardships so far, chose to go back in time and destroy the company responsible for his misery. And thus, Kinji returns to the dungeon just in time to save his friends. Later, he is welcomed by his co-workers, who are glad to see him alive, but the fun times are put on pause when Kinji gets called to meet the woman in charge. Belza fined him 10 million gold, not including other fees. However, Kinji showed no signs of confusion. He was locked in. And to further show his growth, Kay laughed at the Shark Lady's threats, adding, "Right, you might have scared the old me, but you have no idea what you are dealing with now. I am a new man with new abilities." And right before he left, Belza let him know that during his time of absence, which was a month, she had assigned his dorm to someone else. But Kinji didn't mind. He simply shrugged it off and left the office. This turn of events forced Kinji, Rim, Ranga, and Wanabe to move in with Shia. There, the main man fills in the homies what happened so far, and what will happen in the future. But for now, the fun continues as the group goes for a company party to lift the workers' morale before they head to the more dangerous lower dungeons. Ranga mingles with some old fucks, while Rim eats to her full, and Kinji drinks to his limit. Therefore, it wasn't a huge surprise when the main man puked his guts out the next day while Shia scolded him as if they were a married couple. Oh, also, Ranga scored a job thanks to the old geezer he was talking with, so they head to check it out along with Rim. Surprisingly, it was the first time that Rim saw the sky. Anyways, back to the house, when questioned about his ability to change the future, Kinji explains his plan while putting on the most troll face possible. "With my mind and your muscles, we will go to the bottom of the dungeon and reach the Colonian city before Belza, so I can capture their technology and take over the world first, instead of Belza." However, Kinji soon learns the dungeon has become much more dangerous with tougher levels. During a morning meeting, Kinji reaffirms that the plan is still the same: conquer the dungeon, save the world, to which the party nods in approval. But then he slips a casual, "Finally, I will manage to pay all my loans." So naturally, it didn't sit well with the party, and they started to shit-talk him. Now, if that wasn't enough to kill his morning steam, Shia then pulled company documents with various charts, and in front of everyone she let it be known that the man with the charm who want to bring lots of harm is on level 5. In other words, a slime can defeat him, so Shia puts on her glasses and does a fast outfit change, declaring his training camp will soon begin. Now don't get me wrong, when I see a hottie rocking glasses it gets me pumped. But seeing the extreme training the boys went through, not even a baddie in a tight outfit sitting on Little Willie will make it worthwhile. That said, the training was educational too, as during a risky practice, Kinji learns that living beings can absorb natural mana and convert it into magic to boost physical abilities, something he cannot do as he is from a world without mana. This revelation not only makes him depressed for being the weakest person in this new world, but also makes him realize whatever he does, he's a complete outsider. Later at night, Kinji continues to spill his guts and emotions while drinking with his boy Wanibe, wishing he could go back to much simpler times like in Japan, and goes on an emotional rant about how unfair it is that everything he works so hard for ends up slipping through his fingers. Tears fall from his eyes as he wishes for his neat life back. Wanibe tries to reach out, but suddenly, Kinji snaps out of it and returns to his intellectual state after getting all the pent-up emotions out. Quite honestly, it was impressive how he went from a blabbering drunk to a stoic person figuring out what he wanted, i.e., neat life, in mere seconds. Later, while our boy tries to think how to progress with his lack of power, he gets distracted by the ruckus Ranga and Rim are doing, so he shouts at them like a fed-up father, and then takes the broken gun they were playing with. Rim tries to eat it, but the gun glows and reactivates having absorbed her mana. It requests a password to activate, which Kinji accidentally gets right by jokingly suggesting the commonly used keyboard password QWERTY, something I didn't know people do until now. Using this info and the little things I learned from Dr. Robot, my ethical hacker life is ready to start. Now, since I don't know how to transition after this bad joke, here is a random cat. Realizing he has a powerful weapon to compensate for his physical weakness, Kinji takes everyone back to the dungeon to catch up with Belza's adventurers. Kinji uses the gun to kill several monsters, but the battery drains quickly and begins to drain mana from the environment to recharge, including the magic fibers woven into their clothing and the cloth of Elite Party 3, who was watching over them, leaving everyone almost naked. After being punished by Shia, Kinji agrees to get rid of the gun, only to realize it has a stalker-girlfriend personality. It threatens to self-destruct and kill everyone as it doesn't want to be lonely anymore. Hearing this, Kinji agrees to keep it on him. Moving on, the home team joins forces with the other adventurers stripped of Kinji's pistol. In a deep, dark dungeon, one smart decides to tell a scary story about a vengeful spirit roaming the ruins, but the main man shuts that crap down immediately by reminding him that people die when they are killed. However, as much as I would like to keep calling back to this retarded quote, sadly, he had a point, cause people didn't stay dead this time and have now returned as zombies. The undead horde attacked the party and managed to take one of the second party members. The home team questions whether they should go after them or not. A valid question that requires some thought, however, the group soon found out that they had no say in the matter when they noticed Kinji had disappeared, leaving his underpants behind as a clue, so they decided to follow their eccentric leader's trail with the help of Rim's sharp nose. The little sniffer led the group to a concealed room where the zombies slave away brewing illegal potions. Ranga points out that the zombies recruit new members to the horde via whispering to their ears, not by biting, as they initially thought. Furthermore, the zombie hive is also being hypnotized by an enchanted workplace rules sign. Therefore, the group decides to go on a limb and use a spell to blend in with the zombies to get as close as possible to the sign whilst undetected. However, Shia, being a boss lady, couldn't bring herself to work an everyday job and tried to leave, which in turn led to a big fuss that forced the group to stand and fight, during which Ranga swooped in and smashed the sign, returning the zombies to normal. The fellas leave, and the group continues to follow Kinji's scent. On the way, the girls talk about how their lives changed for the better and became more fun since they met the main man. The same man is currently tormenting an undead mage while wearing his gun as underwear. Turns out the scuffed overlord is the vengeful spirit from the story earlier. The party wonders how all this happened, so the skullhead starts explaining from the top. Hundreds of years ago, his reputation was ruined by a hero who looked like our boy, and as a result, he was forced into dungeon mining until he died of exhaustion. He now haunts the dungeon and brainwashes adventurers to work themselves to death as revenge, and thanks to the talks with Mr. Kinji, the mage decides to take their plans to the surface and make everyone work till they die. However, Wanibe and Kinji then reveal that Raizaha's concept of corporate drones is already happening, causing the mage to glow and transform back to its human form, which is a very lovely lady that would have been a great addition to the harem if I say so myself. But I guess managing to cross over to the afterlife is also nice to see. After that is said and done, Kinji meets a young struggling shop manager in the dungeon, Cindy, who sees him as an entitled customer as he is trying to complain his way to some free goods, but Shia stops him. Hence, Kinji Boy starts performing his manipulation magic and tells the chick that if he can fill her shop with paying customers, she will sell him her best dungeon equipment at a massive discount. A deal she can't pass, seeing the state of the shop. Thus, the smartest man in Isekai land decides to use the potions made by the zombies to promote the shop. He rebranded the potions, then gave them to the blonde fella and Rim to use in front of explorers in need as a pre-battle nutrient drink, which led the shop to score a massive profit. However, the shop gets shut down by Raizaha due to unethical practices. You see, on top of selling goods that don't do what they market, the potions are addictive since Kinji added a sprinkle of confusion plants. Kinji tries to talk his way around the problem but can't, so he leaves a thankful Cindy to solve her problems, as he is confident in her abilities. In short, like the government, the man caused a fentanyl crisis to fund his campaign. Now in the new level, Rim dreams of a girl with horns crying while Kinji runs from dinosaurs leading them to early extinction, during which he saves maintenance workers who also double as scout team. The scouters drop the news that the doors to the 5th and 3rd floors are blocked, so they are now indefinitely stuck on the 4th floor. Kinji asks how all this happened, so the old man tells him that during a routine monster-slaying event Belza's bodyguards were doing, the floor started shaking, prompting the entrance to collapse. He and his underlings just left the floors since they were close to the door, evidently leaving Belza's bodyguards trapped on the 5th floor. Dumbfounded in how they could leave their comrades behind, Shia let her thoughts be known. The old scouter tells her that although it was a deeper floor, only 2 monsters were present, and he believes the guards can fend for themselves without having to worry for weaklings like them. To process their next move, the group heads to a safe point that isn't too safe. As Kinji was about to start blasting, dogs suddenly attacked the still-breathing petroleum. Amidst the confusion, ants appeared from the sides and a familiar voice echoed from a distance. A busty lady rushed to the Riz Lord and took a knee, declaring how she's been dying to meet him again. Also, it's worth noting that the maiden was carrying a kid. Although Kinji does the Clinton and claims he never met this woman before or had any relationship with her, Shia still jumps to the conclusion that this lady and kid are Kinji's mistress and child, and that's when the lady reveals herself to be the Ant Queen. Due to being hunted down by humans, i.e. Belza's guards, the queen has developed this new skill to transform into a human, which helps her to slip right into enemy territory. She further adds that since Kinji disappeared, more quakes are happening, so she decided to move her colony deeper away from all the commotion. Along the way, she found this adorable horned girl who was slumbering. Although she knew it was the Magin, the fearsome dungeon protector second to Rim in raw power, the MILF couldn't but feel compelled to scop this cutie patootie and look after her. The queen then ties everything happening in the dungeon with the Magin. Since the little one is unwell, the dungeon is more dangerous for they are in sync. In other words, if the dungeon's ecosystem gets fixed, the girl will get better, and vice versa. Seeing her, technically sister, sick, Rim reacts unusually by hunting food for Magin, but not eating anything herself. But Magin reacts violently, which upsets Rim, yet she still tries to make her little sister feel good to no avail. Understandably so, because who could forget the time their sibling bit them so hard, or in this case, ribbed their heads off? I sure won't. While sitting by her lonesome, Kinji goes to check on her. Rim explains to Kinji that she feels guilty for leaving her domain, which forced the dungeon to create a premature Magin, and by later defeating it, she caused the Magin to be too weak to manage the dungeon levels. Hearing this, the main man tells her not to worry anymore as he will fix it. Hence the next day, Kinji and the others set out to return the 4th floor ecosystem to normal through forestry and animal husbandry, while Rim looks after Magin, who slowly starts warming up and accepting Rim, which is quite nice considering she went to what I assume the ends of the world or dungeon to bring her little sister some ice to cool her fever down. Also, there was a nice sequence of Shia running in a bunny costume from Rabbits in Heat, and for that, I pray for Lord Kinji's success as we near the end of the show. That said, let's power through the ending parts together, fam. With the 4th floor back to normal, Magin recovers and is given the name Sky by Rim, since that was the first thing she was impressed by when she went outside. Sky suddenly falls seriously ill as the door to the 5th floor opens. 2 monsters multiply into dozens and overwhelm the bodyguards. One sussy fella, though, tries to push his soldiers to fight to the brink of death, but clearly they don't listen to that dumb fuck. Alas, they still die anyways. Luckily, Kinji is there. He swoops the tough manly man commander and saves the remaining survivors while Rim defeats the monsters. And just like that, the manipulation soon starts, as he brings the guy down with a bitch slap and then lifts him up spiritually and physically, making the guy like him, to the point he blushes whenever our boy glances at him. We even see how the princess perceives our boy as he goes on full glazing him in his POV. To him, the main man was heaven sent. Before raiding the floor, Kinji decides to get a bit touchy and a bit too close to a bro's personal space, but the latter pushes him back, reminding him, no homo. All meanwhile, the party was watching from behind in confusion. Well, all except Wanibe, who knew our boy had started his scheming plan. Speaking about plans, Kinji leads the charge as planned and has the raid split into smaller groups. Right flank, target the front lines and fire at will. Biceps and Bronze should focus on enemies directly in front of me to secure our advance. And then Rim, you're up. Kinji's commands were direct and clear, ultimately leading the party to victory, as well as to impress the commander is clearly way over his head now. Anywho's, after defeating the Guardians and destroying the ruins that keep producing them, Rim's little sister started feeling better. Soon after, they locate the 6th floor. Where is the power source they were looking for? Kinji volunteers to go ahead since it might be dangerous, moving everyone's hearts with his selfless, courageous notion. This show of awesomeness was so cool that it had the guards cheering for him, and the fancy boy creaming his pants. Everyone from strangers to dear friends like Shia was living in his world. However, the heroic mood faded away once the madman reached the top. Kinji put on his famous devilish smile and revealed that he secretly scouted ahead with his pistol, which gave him information on the magical artifact that Kinji now claimed for himself, giving him the power to command all dungeons. The man flexes his newfound power. I mean, look at this sheer fucking aura and tell me you don't have goosebumps. Not to mention the cold lines he was dropping at the time before summoning an army of monster guards to lead them above the ground. The new dungeon master confronts Belza with enough jewels to clear his debts, quit his job, and laugh at her empty threats as he rides his sweet ass to a brighter future. 3 months later, Kinji has turned the dungeon into a theme park with Ranga as his assistant and begins buying other abandoned dungeons. Using his powers, he can manage the dungeon's magic without Rim or Magin, turning them back into profitable mines run by the Ant Queen. Meanwhile, the rival company is having a meeting on how to deal with the rising Dungeon of Black Company, which Kinji crashes just like how he crashed Raizaha's profits by flooding the market with cheap demonite and putting Cindy in charge of a magazine-based delivery service on adventuring equipment, which, thanks to Wanibe performing demonite research, are cheaper and higher in quality than anything Raizaha sells. Also, he ends discrimination against monsters by employing them with the same rights as humans and the demi-humans. As a result of all this, Belza becomes an alcoholic and gets tormented by Ranga, who as her descendant, knows Belza's childhood history. Yet even evil people have their day, and Belza's came when the demon god smiled upon her, giving her an idea to get revenge on Kinji through Shia. The next day, Kinji gets arrested for crimes he committed before becoming rich. Belza held a press conference and spilled the beans of his previous misadventures that include but were not limited to: first, brainwashing his co-workers into working till exhaustion. Second, the false claim of not paying back loans and forcing himself on the Lady Shark. Third, using equipment without permission. Fourth, putting addictive substances in potions and so on. Fifth, not to mention the claims of using illegal means to reach lower not-before-explored Belza's dungeon and stealing their stuff. Belza credited that win to Shia, who she managed to get this info off by manipulating her into testifying against him. Belza then ends the conference by portraying the man with the beautiful mind as a potential threat to humanity for using methods similar to the demon lord of old. Hence, Kinji, wrapped up in a special straitjacket that blocks the dungeon's special powers, gets tortured to extract a confession, but he resists it like the Giga Chad he is. However, one does fear for his health as he is being handled by a crazy bitch that gets off torturing people. Yup, be weary of busty bitches, they deceive you. But not sweet Shia. Yes, she was the big part he was in that cell right now, and yes, she shouldn't have snitched, but she did it to keep the little man from losing their livelihood. Still, she visited and healed our boy's wounds, having realized Belza manipulated her. Kinji is not mad at her as he knows she doesn't want anyone to be harmed and wants the best for everyone. Kinji boy continues, "To me, the weak people you try so desperately to protect are poisonous. I define others as weak because it lets me dilute myself into thinking I'm so much better, which stripped my heart of the will to fight for them. I made a choice, and I chose to be untouchable instead of relatable." He further adds while touching flashbacks of his childhood play in the background, "There are enemies everywhere, and the strongest person is not the person with power, but the one who is willing to gain more power. They enhance themselves in the shadows while others struggle to catch up. I knew to overturn that reality. I needed the will to keep pushing forward a desire that never burns out." This whole sequence explains why Kinji is the way he is: cunning, stubborn, ambitious, fearless, and most importantly burning with the will to rise over hardship, and from the looks of it, the will of D is still burning within. Ah, the drums of liberation are upon us. 'Cause you see, Lord Kinji had written a manual for this kind of emergency, which the Ant Queen shows the group. A month later, at the company elections, Belza is made Raizaha's director. She basks in the fruits of her work, as in her mind everything couldn't line up more perfectly for her to fully take over the group and the dungeon power as soon as this year's shareholders meeting ends. The plan is just too good to be true, until the man of the hour, too sweet to be sour. What you see is what you get, and what you don't is better yet. The women's pick and the men's regret get name-dropped to be made the new CEO, effective immediately, sending shockwaves across Belza's Doubles D's tight body. Finally, Kinji stands on top as a free man wearing a cool coat and accompanied by a great team. Wanibe reveals that following Kinji's manual, they purchased 40% of all Raizaha stocks and convinced the owners of another 15% through the power of Horny to support them, giving Dungeon Black Company majority ownership of Raizaha. Thus, Raizaha gets absorbed into Kinji's company, where he makes Belza work with Ranga to improve their family relationship. Yet despite his victory and peeing from the top of his new crypt with the wind blowing his way, Kinji finds he is unhappy. Concerned, Ranga reveals that Kinji is from Japan and may be planning to return. The man confirms he was happier chasing a goal than he is now, and that's why he was training his people to take on the company when he's gone. However, Kinji later reveals during his goodbye party that instead of returning to Japan, he plans to expand the company, take over dungeons in other countries, and keep going until he controls the entire world. But, before the journey continues, the man, the myth, the legend, heads back to where it all began and picks up the coin that led to millions after. The end.